A video has recently gone viral online. A girl had a crush on a boy for 13 whole years but never dared to confess. When she finally mustered the courage to meet him, she found out that he already had a girlfriend. She stood a short distance away, watching them in love, and broke down in tears. People online felt deeply for her. Many urged her to be brave for once and tell him how she felt. The girl also said she needed to give herself closure. A month later, she posted a picture of them holding hands, saying that she had moved him with her feelings, and now her wish had come true, and what she had seen that day was just a misunderstanding. People online sent their blessings, hoping they would have a long and happy life together. But only I know there was no misunderstanding at all. The protagonist of the story, the boy, is my boyfriend, with whom I've been in a relationship for 3 years. Chapter 1. The video was shared with me by a friend. She's very emotional and loves watching all sorts of love stories online. She often ends up in tears, and she never forgets to forward them to me, crying and talking about the tragic love story of the characters. This time was no different. Clara, you have no idea how much this girl has suffered. She has known the boy next door for 23 years and has had a crush on him for 13, but she never dared to confess. She finally gathered the courage to go to his school to find him, but as soon as she got there, she saw him standing with another girl, and they looked like they were a couple. The blogger hid behind a tree not far away, covering her mouth and crying her heart out. She finally wanted to take that step, but when she saw that he already had a girlfriend, she lost even the excuse to get close. And the boy she has a crush on goes to the same university as us. Wah. I really feel so bad for her. By the end, Renata couldn't help but cover her mouth and cry. The video was posted a month ago. It has recently gone viral all over the internet, becoming the most talked about topic right now. I looked down at the video, watching this blogger. The blogger used the camera to record every little detail of her years of secret love, but she protected the boy's privacy very well, only filming the paths he walked, the flowers he praised, and every word he said. As for the boy, people knew he was a student at a particular university, but no one knew who he really was. The caption below the video earned the sympathy of countless viewers. The blogger wrote, "We were born on the same day, and I heard your first cries and saw your childish ways. We grew up in the same cradle. We've known each other for 23 years. Filling each other's lives completely. You said you were my older brother and would protect me for life, but I was a little greedy. Since the age of 10, I haven't wanted to be just your sister. I wanted to be your girlfriend and even your lover. But the one time I dared to be brave, when I finally saw you again, you were already someone else's boyfriend." The caption went viral, and so did the video. The blogger took a 20-plus hour train ride alone, carrying the purest feelings of her youth, crossing mountains and rivers just to see the one she missed. When she finally reached his university, she saw his silhouette from a distance. Before she could gather the courage to approach, another girl appeared, shattering all her hopes from the past years. The blogger filmed the shadows of a couple on the ground, with her crying voice as the narration. She sobbed with her hand over her mouth, not making much noise, but her pain was still palpable through the screen. And when I opened the comments section, many people were reminiscing about their past. Some talked about the people they had crushes on when they were young. Years later, seeing them again, even just a glance could still make their hearts tremble. There were too many people sharing their memories, and the comments exceeded 1 million as this video gained more and more attention. Many people, having experienced unrequited love themselves, having suffered the pain of unspoken crushes, knowing that it's a one-person show that will never bloom into anything more. They all hoped the blogger would be a little braver, at least to say out loud the love she had buried in her heart for so many years, to give herself some closure. Up to this point, I didn't think there was anything particularly special, until the end of the video, when the camera panned over the university gate, where a distinctive clock was hanging. The time showed March 5th at 12 o'clock. Even though the final shot flashed by, I still saw it. The date was ordinary, and the time was nothing special, but it just so happened. March 5th was the 3-year anniversary of me and Gabriel being together. That day, we had planned to go out on a date, but just as we reached the gate, Gabriel received a call from our counselor, saying there was something important we needed to attend to. and we had to head back. That day, for some reason, I looked up at the clock and remembered the time. It was exactly 12 o'clock on March 5th. I remember it clearly. When Gabriel got the call from the counselor, I looked around and didn't see anyone else. At that time, there were only the two of us at the university gate. So, the boy the blogger has had a crush on all these years is my boyfriend? Chapter 2. My mind was filled with 1,000 thoughts as I suddenly recalled Gabriel mentioning a neighbor's little sister. He said, "Although I'm an only child, I've always had a little shadow following me. She's my neighbor's little sister, and we were born on the same day. Just like twins. When there's a chance, I'll introduce you to her." He also said, "Skylark has always liked coming to my house, and she considers my mom as her godmother. My mom really likes her, treating her like her own daughter, while I'm just like the adopted one." When Gabriel said this, I didn't pay much attention, thinking it was just a normal sibling-like relationship. I never imagined that this girl would actually like Gabriel. This shocking realization hit me so hard that I couldn't even process it. Suddenly, my phone buzzed, and the blogger posted a new video. I accidentally clicked on it. In this latest video, the blogger was wearing a mask, leaning against a boy whose face wasn't shown. She smiled at the camera and said, "Thank you all. Without your encouragement, I might not have had the courage to confess to my neighbor's brother. Now my wish has come true, so I wanted to share this with you and let you witness my happiness." As for the girl I saw that day, she was just a classmate of his, and it was all a misunderstanding. At the end, she looked up at the boy, her eyes full of affection. He said I was very brave and that he was moved by my persistence over the past decade and was willing to give us a try. I watched the video 2 or 3 times. At first, I was still skeptical. Then, after watching this latest video, looking at the boy who didn't show his face, he was wearing the same shirt I had just bought for my boyfriend last week. When he reached out to hold her tightly, a scar on his hand was revealed. Perhaps scars are common, and others could have them too. But at the same time, with the same shirt, and now the same scar, too many coincidences together. And it's no longer a coincidence. My eyes fell on the blogger's name, Kite, and I remembered the Skylark sister that Gabriel had mentioned. For a moment, I didn't know how to react, and I was just numb, standing there, lost. Meanwhile, Renata watched this video. She immediately covered her mouth, tears welling up in her eyes again. "Oh my God, Clara, they really got together." I thought unrequited love wouldn't lead to anything, but I never expected that the blogger and the boy she secretly loved would actually end up together. "Clara, I'm so happy for them." Renata was really excited, taking out her phone, opening the blogger's latest video, and like many other viewers, she wanted to leave a comment wishing them a long and happy life together. But I stopped her hand just in time. She looked at me, confused, and said, "I watched all of this blogger's videos. It's definitely not scripted." "Clara, believe me, this is a real story of unrequited love blossoming into something beautiful." Renata always loved watching these kinds of videos, but she would usually find out later that 8 out of 10 were scripted. This time, Renata probably thought I still believed that. I shook my head at her, pointing to the boy in the video whose face wasn't shown, and told her, "That boy is Gabriel, the same Gabriel who has been with me for 3 years. The one who said he would take me home to meet his parents over the new year and finalize our engagement after graduation." Gabriel. Hearing my words, Renata was stunned, clearly in disbelief. She frowned, hesitating. It was only after a long pause that she spoke. "There are many people who wear similar clothes. Could it really just be a coincidence? If I could, I would also hope this was just a coincidence. So, if only to give myself some closure, I called Gabriel on video. It took over 10 seconds before Gabriel answered. "Clara, why did you suddenly call me on video?" Gabriel, who had originally said he was studying in the library, was now at a mall, with noise all around, and a girl in a blue dress passed behind him. Even glancing at the camera, if I hadn't seen that video, I might not have noticed anything unusual. But Gabriel was wearing that white shirt, and the blogger in the video was also wearing that blue dress. Everything was so coincidental, so ridiculous. but I still suppressed my emotions and asked him, "Weren't you supposed to be in the library? Why does it look like you're at the mall? Who are you shopping with? A roommate?" Gabriel's eyes shifted slightly. He wasn't very good at lying, especially now, with guilt evident in his eyes, and he couldn't help but look around. Finally, he forced a smile and said, "Last time we went shopping, you liked a bag, so I thought I'd buy it as a gift for your birthday next month. I didn't expect you to find out. Is that so?" I forced a smile, and just as I was about to say something else, a girl's voice suddenly came from the video, sounding very much like the blogger Kite. Gabriel's expression flickered, and he quickly said, "I have something important to do. I'll talk to you when I get back to school." Then he quickly hung up the call, not giving me a chance to speak. At that moment, the blogger, Skylark, updated a photo again, this time holding a bag in her hand. Smiling, the caption read, "He said that even if the sky falls, today I'm the most important." Immediately, a newly registered account replied in her comments, "Never thought someone would love me silently for 13 years. Very touched. And I don't want to disappoint." The viewers in the comments were all deeply moved, but I, at that moment, was overwhelmed with a mix of anger and sadness. When I first started dating Gabriel, I had told him because of my family background, I hated betrayal. He raised his hand then, swore to the heavens that anyone who betrays true love should swallow 1,000 needles. Since that's the case, how can I not make sure his oath comes true? Chapter 3. Gabriel found me sitting by the Emerald Lake at school. This was where we first met. It was the beginning of our freshman year, and I was unfamiliar with the campus, unable to find my dormitory. I dragged my suitcase back and forth by the lake 3 or 4 times. Gabriel had arrived at school early. After settling in, he sat by the lake playing games. Seeing me pacing back and forth so many times, he approached me directly, asked my major, and then led me to the dormitory. The dorm was on the 5th floor, and there was no elevator, and the suitcase was quite heavy. He carried my suitcase upstairs for me. To thank him, I treated him to a meal, and we naturally became friends. Later, we spent more and more time together. At the beginning of our sophomore year, a senior from the same department pursued me. When Gabriel found out, he told my roommate that we should all go out together on the weekend. It wasn't until we arrived at the destination that I realized it was a carefully planned confession. Gabriel was good-looking, did well in his studies, and was ambitious. With no other girls around him, I had known for a while that I had feelings for him, but when Gabriel confessed to me, I didn't immediately agree. I told him, "I hate betrayal in relationships. If we ever get together, and over time you find it boring, or you fall for another girl, you can just tell me. I'll walk away without any fuss. But if you betray me and try to have it both ways, I can't guarantee what I'll do." When I said this, I was very serious. Gabriel nodded, and in front of our mutual friends, he swore that he would never betray me in this lifetime. I believed him, and I loved him sincerely for 3 years. Before we graduated, I had even thought about marrying him right after graduation and never being apart again. But in the end, it all fell apart. I closed my eyes, letting the evening breeze blow on my face. Cold and uncomfortable, Gabriel jogged up to me. He was holding a bag, the one I had liked before. He handed the bag to me directly, bending down to touch my head. He said softly, "Clara, I searched for a long time today to find this bag that you liked. Here, it's for you." If I didn't know anything, at this moment, I would have jumped into Gabriel's arms and said how wonderful my boyfriend was. But unfortunately, I knew. I also knew that just a few hours ago, this bag had been carried by another woman. I'm not a clean freak in everyday life, but in matters of love, this bag felt filthy to me, so I didn't reach out to take it. I just patted the spot beside me, and Gabriel sat down next to me. I pointed to the lake in front of us and asked if he remembered this place. He smiled. "How could I forget? When I first saw you, you were dragging your suitcase back and forth so many times, and I thought, how could this girl be so cute? That game I was playing, I was actually AFK, secretly watching you the whole time. I had to gather a lot of courage to approach you. So, Was it love at first sight? Gabriel nodded, his gaze soft as he looked at me. Yes. I liked you the moment I saw you. That's why I struck up a conversation and took the opportunity to get your contact info. After that, I often asked you out on weekends. When I heard other seniors were pursuing you, I got so anxious that I confessed, afraid you'd fall for someone else. Gabriel paused, then turned to look at me, holding my hand. He said, "Luckily, you liked me too." I lowered my eyes, looking at our intertwined hands, suddenly feeling a sense of irony. He seemed to love me so much, yet he could shower another girl with the same affection behind my back. I took several deep breaths to suppress the sadness and anger inside me, then discreetly withdrew my hand. Just as I was about to say something, I caught a glimpse of a blue figure behind a tree not far away. Maybe it was intuition, but just a glance at that figure made me feel disgusted. So I asked Gabriel, "Do you love me?" "Love." Gabriel nodded emphatically, without hesitation. Seeing that figure punch the tree, I smiled. Then I asked, "We said we'd get married after graduation. This is no joke. Gabriel, have you really thought about introducing me to your parents and marrying me?" Gabriel nodded again, even more emphatically. "From the moment I first saw you, I wanted to marry you." As he spoke, he tried to reach out to hug me, just as I was about to dodge. I saw that figure rush out from behind the tree. She shouted, "Gabriel, brother!" At her words, Gabriel's hands froze in midair. Chapter 4. Clara. This is the neighbor's little sister I mentioned to you. Skylark. Gabriel concealed the panic in his eyes. He feigned surprise. Then he turned to Skylark and said, "Your school's already on break. What made you decide to come here? Why didn't you let me know in advance? As your brother, I should at least show you some hospitality." Gabriel usually wasn't much of a talker. If he wasn't hiding something, at most, he would have said, "Skylark, what brings you here?" But now he was saying so much just to tell me that he didn't know Skylark was coming and to emphasize his role as her brother, trying to keep me from overthinking it. I looked at this so-called brother and sister in front of me, finding it more and more ridiculous. Skylark bit her lip, her eyes glistening with tears. But in the end, she managed to smile at me. "You must be the girlfriend Gabriel mentioned, right? He's shown me your photos before. You're even prettier in person. He's really lucky." So, Skylark knew about my existence, which meant she wasn't being deceived by Gabriel. In that case, she knew exactly what she was doing. I detest people like her, so I didn't even bother to smile, not even lifting my eyelids, as I gently brushed the fallen leaves off my clothes. Skylark, however, acted as if she had suffered a great injustice. She kept glancing at Gabriel, who just shook his head at her, then bent down to look at me. "Clara, it's getting late, and I'm a bit worried about Skylark being alone. I'll take her back to the hotel first. Can you make it back to the dorm by yourself?" "Go ahead." I didn't hesitate and stood up immediately. But before leaving, I deliberately said to Gabriel, right in front of Skylark, "Don't forget, we're going to the amusement park tomorrow. Don't be late." After saying that, I walked away, but I didn't go far, counting the seconds in my mind before turning back the way I came. Gabriel and Skylark were still standing where I left them. I stood at a distance, dressed in a black dress, blending perfectly into the night. Maybe they thought I was far away by now. Skylark let her tears fall, looking tearfully at Gabriel. Do I really have to be so humble in front of her? Gabriel looked at her, a hint of pity flashing in his eyes. But he didn't relent. She's my girlfriend after all. We agreed on this earlier. I can't break up with Clara. I really love her. Skylark wiped her tears and pointed to herself. Then what am I? Gabriel sighed, his voice unconsciously softening. Skylark, I never imagined someone would love me in secret for over a decade. I'm really touched. So I agreed to your request. Before I marry Clara, I'll treat you like my girlfriend and make up for the regrets of the past 10 years. So, at this moment, in my heart, you are my girlfriend, and I will cherish you in every way, okay? When I first watched those videos, I had a vague feeling that Skylark was deeply infatuated, but I didn't expect that a few sweet words would pacify her. Skylark still seemed a bit aggrieved, but in the end, she nodded. Okay, I won't act like this again. Then, as if she thought of something, she hooked her fingers around Gabriel's, speaking in a coquettish tone. Are you going to the amusement park tomorrow? But we haven't been to an amusement park together in so long. When we were kids, you said no matter how old we got, you wouldn't go with any girl but me. I'll respect your relationship, but can you give me tomorrow? Gabriel didn't have a chance to respond to her request, because as she spoke, Skylark had already wrapped her arms around his neck and kissed him. As for me, I stood not far away, calmly took out my phone, and captured the moment, freezing it in time forever. Chapter 5. As expected, Gabriel canceled our date. He texted me, saying something important had come up and we'd have to reschedule. I didn't ask for details, just replied with a simple okay, and turned off my phone. The date was at a location that was more than half the city away from the school, so I had set out an hour early. It had rained a little in the morning. I didn't bring an umbrella, so I sat in the convenience store outside the park. Renata stood at the door, occasionally glancing back at me, as if she wanted to say something. In the end, she couldn't hold back and asked, Clara, are you really sure that Gabriel is the neighbor's brother mentioned in Skylark's videos? Renata is too sentimental, sometimes crying all night over emotional videos, and Skylark's videos are beautiful enough, with well-crafted words, easily pulling at heartstrings. So Renata was reluctant to believe that this beautiful story could be fake. I didn't explain much, just pointed to the entrance and said, in less than 5 minutes, you'll know. But it didn't even take half a minute. Gabriel showed up. He was holding hands with Skylark, their fingers intertwined, walking up to the entrance of the park. Skylark hadn't shown her face in the videos before, but her style of dress and silhouette were recognizable. Renata had watched her videos several times. She was most familiar with Skylark's figure, and with just a glance, she could confirm it was her. The videos are so beautifully shot, and the words are so sorrowful. I thought she was truly a pitiful person with unrequited love, but it turns out she knew she was the other woman and still went ahead. How can someone be so shameless? Renata deflated like a punctured balloon. She sat next to me, head down, motionless, as if she were the one being cheated on. I reached out and patted her shoulder, gently comforting her. Stories on the internet are always half true and half false. Behind the screen, who knows if someone is a person or a ghost? At least now you know Skylark's true face, so you won't be deceived by her videos in the future. That's a good thing. After saying that, I watched as Gabriel and Skylark went through the gate and quickly stood up. They've gone in. Let's hurry. Renata nodded and grabbed the umbrella before following me through the entrance. We followed Gabriel closely, watching them hold hands as they went on ride after ride. Finally, we reached the carousel, and a light rain began to fall, making everything perfect. I picked an ideal spot. Gabriel and Skylark were on the carousel, holding up their phones to take pictures, looking like a couple deeply in love. In the heat of the moment, they even kissed in front of the children behind them. I stood at a distance and signaled Renata to get ready to take pictures. She's a professional photographer. With the requirements I had given her, she easily captured the exact mood I wanted. In the photo, I stood by the flower bed, eyes fixed on the entrance of the park, my hair wet from the rain, looking pitiful and lonely. And behind me, with the carousel as the background, a couple in love was kissing, their faces particularly clear. I looked at the photo and couldn't help but nod. Renata was still a bit confused. I thought, knowing your personality, that even if you didn't rush over to slap those two, you wouldn't be this calm. You're so calm that it scares me a little. Why did you come all this way just to take a picture? As my best friend, I've never hidden anything from Renata. She knows my pain. She knows how my parents, who worked together for decades, went from being an ordinary couple in the countryside to well-known entrepreneurs in the city. Young couples, sharing hardships and fortunes. But there's a saying that rings true. With power and wealth comes the death of a wife. My father was no exception. That one simple man finally reached the peak of his industry, attracting countless women. He couldn't resist the temptation and set his sights on a girl about my age. wanting to divorce my mom and marry her. My mom, who had worn herself out for this family, and with the double blow of my dad's betrayal, ended up in the hospital. She passed away within a year. As for my dad, he didn't shed a single tear, eagerly preparing to marry his new wife. Fortunately, I had always been by their side, learning. For me, his daughter, my father had no defenses, and I had his weak spot. You could say his Achilles heel, and all of my mother's shares had been transferred to my name. With the weak spot in hand, my father had no choice but to step down and cut ties with me. But I didn't feel sad at all. I took control of the company and hired professionals to manage it, because I needed to finish my studies first. Because of this, I deeply hate those who betray in relationships. Renata knows my personality, so she was puzzled by my lack of revenge. To this, I simply told her, Gabriel's company is looking to go public, but they've hit some snags and are desperate for investment, leaving no room for risk. So at this critical moment, if Gabriel's negative news were to break out, fueled by public opinion and with the force behind me pushing this moving story of unrequited love to a climax, only for people to find out it's all rotten at the core, the backlash would be enough to ruin the Mo family's company. I had considered emotional revenge, but instead of him crying over money, regretting losing me, I'd rather see him lose everything. Maybe I really am as cold-hearted as my father said, but I don't regret it. Chapter 6. For a long time afterward, Gabriel always found various excuses to cancel our dates. Then he would take Skylark around the city, like a couple madly in love, shamelessly flaunting their affection in front of the camera. I would check Skylark's updates every day. Today, they went to a restaurant that had amazing food. Then they went shopping together. They heard that the museum in the city had a rich history, so they held hands and went there. The scenery at the mountain outside the city was beautiful, so of course, they had to check in and take pictures. In short, they left their traces all over the city. Many loyal fans waited eagerly every day for new updates. The comments were all the same, mostly filled with blessings, but there were also different voices, hoping that the blogger and her boyfriend would show their faces. But Skylark never responded to those. A few more days passed. The final exams were over, and Gabriel came to see me. Before he arrived, I intentionally opened Skylark's latest video. She had become more cautious, and in the recent videos, she didn't even show their outfits anymore, only taking pictures of their hands or blurry kissing shots, making it impossible to dig deeper. When Gabriel arrived, he saw me watching videos. He was smiling at first, but his expression instantly turned panicked, and he quickly reached out to cover my phone screen, then naturally took the phone away, smiling as he said, "You never used to watch these kinds of emotional videos." I looked at the phone, now face down on the table, but I didn't reach for it. I just spoke quietly. I just happened to come across it. I thought it was interesting, so I watched a bit more, hearing my words. Gabriel seemed a bit nervous. "And what did you notice?" I smiled. "Well, I noticed that the blogger and her boyfriend seem really happy." As I spoke, I stared directly at Gabriel, but he didn't dare meet my gaze, and even his smile was forced. Then he said to me, "These videos are all scripted. There's nothing worth watching." I nodded. True, there aren't that many unrequited loves out there. But speaking of which, if you were the one being secretly admired, and a girl liked you for so many years, wouldn't you be really touched? I asked earnestly, and as he listened, it was as if Gabriel was lost in some memory. After a long pause, he finally replied, "Everyone wants to be the one deeply loved, right? To be remembered for so many years. That kind of love is just heartbreaking." Halfway through, Gabriel suddenly fell silent. He probably realized he had said too much and nervously stared at me. I pretended not to notice. I focused on stirring my coffee, the bitter aroma spreading through my nose, a painful yet satisfying sensation. Gabriel let out a sigh of relief and then took my hand. "Clara, but in my heart, there's only you. From the first day I saw you, I fell in love with you. Over the years, all I've wanted is to marry you. I love you so much, and no one in this world will ever love you more than I do. Look, after cheating, a man will always come back and talk about love, as if that's the only way to ease the guilt inside. But I'm utterly disgusted by this behavior. So I asked him, "We've finished our exams. According to the plan, shouldn't we be heading to your hometown to meet your parents?" Gabriel didn't hesitate, smiling that happy kind of smile. He said, "We'll leave tomorrow." After two timing, he still dreams of happiness. I just can't understand why such people exist in the world. Isn't it disgusting? Chapter 7. Skylark returned to City A before us. When Gabriel and I arrived at the Mo family home, Skylark was talking to Mrs. Mo. I didn't know what they were discussing, but Mrs. Mo was laughing heartily, a picture of harmony. The moment Skylark saw me, her smile vanished. She walked over to me first, leaned in close, and whispered in a voice only the two of us could hear. "Mrs. Mo is very picky about her daughter-in-law. If you want to win her favor, it might be a bit difficult." As she said this, there was a clear sense of smugness in Skylark's eyes, but I didn't respond to her. Instead, I walked straight up to Mrs. Mo. She raised an eyebrow when she saw me, her gaze blatantly assessing me. That look was too obvious, and too ugly. It was as if I were a lamb to be slaughtered, being evaluated to see what I was worth. But with just one glance at Mrs. Mo, I knew what kind of person she was. Her husband was her world, and her son was the most incredible person in it. So the daughter-in-law who could marry into the family would either be Skylark, whom she had watched grow up, or someone who shared her values, a compliant puppet who treated her son as the center of the universe. As soon as I sat down, Mrs. Mo began to ask, "Clara, I've heard that you're an only child?" I nodded, politely answering, "Yes, my parents have only me, so I'll be the one to inherit our family's business." When I mentioned the company, there was a brief flash of interest in Mrs. Mo's eyes, and she tried to gently probe further. "Do you think a girl can manage a company well?" I lowered my head and smiled, then glanced at Gabriel, with a look of undisguised admiration. "That's why I'm in a hurry to marry Gabriel. Once we're married, what's mine will be his. Naturally, he'll help me manage the company." Hearing this, Mrs. Mo's smile grew even wider, but she still pretended to be modest. "My son, though well-educated and from a good family, managing two companies on his own would be quite exhausting. You're a girl, but you should learn more and help out. Look at Skylark. She's obedient and well-behaved. You should learn from her." I nodded, maintaining my polite demeanor, showing no sign of irritation. "Of course, but I'm also planning to get pregnant quickly after we marry. It would be best if I could have two big boys to carry on the Mo family line. That would surely make Gabriel proud." At this, Mrs. Mo couldn't hide her smile any longer. She had been holding Skylark's hand, but now she let go, smiling as she took my hand and sat me down beside her, continuing to praise me. "Very few girls think like that. You're a smart one. Taking care of the household and raising children is a woman's duty. Only boys can carry on the family name. So I'll certainly work hard and learn from you." By now, Mrs. Mo had completely forgotten about Skylark, calling me Clara, my dear daughter, with every breath. Chapter 8. But the Mo family and the Sue family lived in the same neighborhood. If they wanted to meet, they could easily do so, even in the middle of the night. My guest room had a great location. Sometimes when I couldn't sleep, I'd look out from the balcony and see the two of them hugging. Sometimes there were three of them. Mrs. Mo would sit in the pavilion, pointing and talking to them. Her voice was low, but I could still make out what she said. "I really do wish you could be my daughter-in-law. But the Sue family is in decline now. You also have a brother, so you can't inherit the company." Clara, on the other hand, has a huge company backing her, and she's an only child. For Gabriel's future, Auntie has no choice but to give you up. Hearing this, Skylark's eyes reddened, as if she had suffered a great injustice. But Mrs. Mo still felt sorry for her. She patted Gabriel's shoulder and said, "You're a man. After all, having a few women on the side isn't a big deal. But be careful. Don't let that Lynn Clara find out. And if she does, make sure it's after you're married. By then, her family's fortune will be yours. And even if you keep two women, it won't matter." Listening to Mrs. Mo, Gabriel seemed a bit displeased. His expression darkened. Mom, I'm not as promiscuous as you think. I really do like Clara. At this, Mrs. Mo scoffed. Skylark quickly grabbed his hand, speaking with grievance. Then what about me? Gabriel was silent for a moment, then reached out to touch her face, his eyes full of affection. I've always treated you as my most beloved sister, and that won't change. Even after I'm married, I'll still take care of you and cherish you, but this relationship can only continue until I'm married. That's our agreement, and it can't be broken. At first glance, these words might seem full of deep emotion, but in reality, they were utterly scummy. Scummy enough to make me want to vomit the next moment. As for Gabriel's father, it wasn't until my third day there that I finally met him. He was busy with the company's upcoming IPO, needing to maintain a good image. Lately, he had been seeking investment everywhere and had his eyes on a project in City A. Looking for a partner. After learning that I was the heir to the Lin Group, his attitude toward me became extremely favorable, as if he couldn't wait for me and Gabriel to get married. Like Mrs. Mo, he was fixated on the wealth behind me, and he had already begun taking action. At the dinner table, Mr. Mo brought it up directly. I heard that the Lin Group is planning to take over the project in the eastern suburbs and is considering bidding on that plot of land. Is that true? I nodded. The board had indeed proposed the eastern suburbs project, and we had considered acquiring that land, but after assessing the risks, we found that the eastern suburbs project had significant issues, and that plot of land, at first glance, it seemed very valuable, but with the upcoming policy changes, it would become a worthless wasteland. However, few companies knew about this insider information. The Mo family was clearly not one of them. So Mr. Mo said to me directly, the eastern suburbs project aligns perfectly with the direction my company is heading. Since you'll be our daughter-in-law soon, why don't you let me have this project? As for that plot of land, you can bundle your data on it and give it to me. After all, we're family, so it doesn't matter who spends the money. If you want to develop a project on it later, I can give it to you. How about it? How about it? All I could think was, how shameless. So, I had no reason to feel guilty, since they were so greedy and kept trying to manipulate me. As a businesswoman, I had no reason to stop them. The project was his, and the land was his, as long as he could handle it. Mr. Mo was extremely pleased with my compliance and immediately decided that we should get married after the new year. As for Skylark, she cried several times, but the Mo family covered for them, keeping me completely in the dark, thinking I was just a fool. Chapter 9. I stayed at the Mo family's house for a long time. Sometimes Gabriel would accompany me on outings, but more often, he would make excuses, saying he had work at the company. In reality, he was meeting Skylark, doing things far beyond what siblings would do. Meanwhile, Skylark's account had amassed over 30 million followers. Every evening at 8, she would post a video, showcasing all kinds of sweet interactions, with countless well wishes from fans. But with fortune comes misfortune. While many were happy for her, others began to question things. I had Renata use an account with some influence. It had a lot of followers, so a comment posted in the feed easily made it to the top. For several days, we kept leaving comments. Skylark tried not to respond, but with so many people echoing my sentiments, she eventually couldn't help but address it. As for Mr. Mo, he not only took the project but also hurried to bid on that piece of land before the new year. He seemed afraid someone else might snatch it up if he delayed. He liquidated quite a bit of cash for it, putting everything into that project, eagerly awaiting a big payoff after the new year. As for me, when I wasn't busy, I spent my time with Mrs. Mo. The more time I spent with her, I realized she was actually quite easy to please. As long as everything went her way, she was satisfied, since it only required a bit of flattery. I displayed utmost obedience, becoming her ideal daughter-in-law. Even Skylark couldn't manage to be as compliant as I was. She was so frustrated she nearly ground her teeth to dust, then went out drinking at night, calling Gabriel and not returning until morning. As for where they went and what they did, I had a private investigator take photos. I had those photos developed, and every one of Mr. Mo's business competitors received a copy. This game was nearing its conclusion. Chapter 10. The day the game ended was New Year's Eve. I had just left a comment under Skylark's latest video when Renata quickly bought a flood of fake accounts to boost it. After weeks of fueling the fire, Skylark finally responded, saying she would go live today to prove her love. She wanted to show me this wasn't a scripted act, but real happiness. Of course, I was happy to see it. When Skylark came to the Mo family's house with her phone, Mr. and Mrs. Mo were still at the office, and I made an excuse about a headache to retreat to my room, leaving the whole backyard to them. Judging the timing, I went downstairs and immediately saw the two of them talking in the pavilion. I looked down at my phone, seeing that Skylark's account was live streaming. The camera was focused on the two of them in the pavilion. Gabriel probably didn't know, and the phone must have been placed far enough away that their conversation couldn't be heard. I surveyed the distance between the camera and the scene from the back door of the living room. I found the phone hidden in a corner, but I didn't touch it. I just stood there quietly, watching the two of them. They started with a conversation. Then, without knowing who initiated it, they ended up holding hands, then wrapping their arms around each other's necks, gazing into each other's eyes before kissing. The live chat was flooded with enthusiastic comments, filled with double tap 660 SIXS, and many people sent expensive gifts, all to wish them well. The number of viewers in the comments section quickly surpassed 5 million. Seeing that the time was right, I walked straight into the live stream, saying, I asked him to get something. Why hasn't he come back yet? As I spoke, I took a few more steps forward, just in time to see the two of them in each other's arms. I shouted, What are you doing? The moment Gabriel heard my voice, he quickly pushed Skylark away, looking utterly panicked as he ran towards me. Clara, let me explain. I shook my head frantically, refusing to let him come any closer, my voice breaking with tears as I questioned him. Gabriel, you're my boyfriend. We've been together for 3 years. We're at the point of meeting each other's parents. How could you do this to me? You told me you were just like siblings, but what kind of siblings kiss like that? I cried, my tears falling onto my phone, and when Skylark came over, I raised my hand and slapped Gabriel. Gabriel, how could you do this to me? It was this slap that made Skylark so distressed enough to forget she was still live streaming, as she immediately rushed at me. Clara, who do you think you are, daring to hit Gabriel? As she spoke, she pushed me, and I fell to the ground, but I still looked up at her and shouted, Why wouldn't I hit him? We've been together for 3 years, and you two have been sneaking around behind my back. And on a day like today, you, as the other woman, what right do you have to shout at me? With everything out in the open, Skylark couldn't hold back any longer, more out of anger than anything else. With tears in her eyes, she retorted, You've been together for 3 years, but we've known each other for 23. If I hadn't confessed too late, you wouldn't even be in the picture. As she spoke, Gabriel quickly bent down, trying to help me up from the ground, but I pushed his hand away. Gabriel, I never thought you'd be like this. How could you do this to me? How could you? My tears fell on his hand like burning coals, making him jerk his hand back. Then he started apologizing endlessly. I'm sorry, Clara. It's my fault. I lost my mind. Please forgive me this one time. I promise it won't happen again. I promise. Seeing him plead, Skylark's sadness deepened. She pointed at me and shouted, Clara doesn't love you like I do. Why do you have to be so humble? Why do you treat me like this? This farce, broadcasted live, was pushed to its peak. Chapter 11. I returned to North City that very day. I had booked my ticket early, and since I hadn't brought much with me, I left just as quickly. Gabriel kept trying to make me stay, but I didn't look back. Just before boarding the plane, I received a message from Renata. She told me that the live stream had gone viral. Everything about Skylark and Gabriel was exposed in less than half a day, especially for those fans who had always supported Skylark. They suddenly realized that the blogger they had admired for so long was not the pitiful, unrequited lover they thought she was. but rather the other woman ruining someone else's relationship. The feeling of betrayal was hard to swallow. For every blessing there had been, there were now just as many curses, and then some, multiplied by 100-fold or 1,000-fold in backlash. At the same time, those photos I had taken were posted online by several anonymous sources. When my plane landed, and I turned my phone back on, the photos I had taken were trending at the top of the search charts, especially the one from the amusement park. In it, I looked like the ultimate fool, standing alone in the rain, waiting for someone who would never show up, while behind me, a couple passionately kissed. A user claimed they had taken the photo at the amusement park by chance, not realizing it was actually a scene of infidelity. There was no denying that Gabriel and I had been dating first, and Skylark wasn't deceived. The live stream proved she had known everything from the start, yet still chose to be the other woman. So no matter how they tried to explain it afterward, it was futile. I blocked all of Gabriel's contact information and refused to let him enter my neighborhood, completely cutting off any chance of meeting. As for his family's company, their long-prepared plans to go public were completely derailed by this scandal. And not only that, the project they had invested so much money into started to go under, becoming a losing venture. Then, after the new year, new policies were introduced that rendered the land they had acquired worthless. The Mo family had poured all their money into the project and the land, even borrowing a significant amount. Now their cash flow was completely cut off, and with Gabriel's cheating scandal causing a public uproar. Normally, cheating wouldn't be such big news, but with the build-up, millions of viewers watching the live stream, the backlash from countless netizens, and the efforts of the Mo family's competitors, all these factors combined meant the Mo family couldn't secure a single investment during this critical period. And if they couldn't plug the financial gap, the company would essentially be finished. But that had nothing to do with me. In the second semester of my senior year, I mostly stopped going to school, following the path I had planned from the start. I went straight into an internship at the company, preparing to take over. Gabriel tried to see me several times, but I never met him, until he stormed into the company one day, shouting and demanding to see me. I took out a box of silver needles that I had prepared long ago from my drawer. As he wished, I met with him one last time. It was at a small park near the company. I sat on a bench, listening as he kept apologizing. Gabriel said, "You always seemed so indifferent, like nothing really mattered to you. And you didn't need me that much. I never felt like I was important to you. And it made me feel lost, made me doubt myself. I wanted you to rely on me, to cry and tell me you couldn't live without me. But you never did. You were always stronger than me. So I felt empty inside." When Skylark said she loved me and cried, saying she couldn't live without me, for the first time, I felt needed. I just wanted to feel that dependence from someone. But all along, the only person I ever loved was you. And so? I smiled, feeling utterly disgusted. So I'm supposed to forgive your betrayal, reflect on myself, and think that I didn't do enough to satisfy your masculinity? Then I should apologize, make up with you, and we continue as a couple, getting married after graduation as planned. I should give you the company, stay at home, have your children, and depend on you completely. Would that make you happy? Hearing my words, Gabriel was silent for a moment. He shook his head, his voice choking. I never wanted to trap you at home. I just hoped you could rely on me more. But no matter what, I really do love you. From the first moment I saw you, I liked you so much. Clara, please, give me another chance. I stood up and placed the box of silver needles on the bench. Then I told him, "Do you remember the vow you made when we first got together?" Gabriel froze for a moment, his smile bitter. He said, "I remember. The one who betrays true love must swallow 1,000 needles. So do you think that vow should come true?" As I spoke, I weighed the metal box in my hand. Then, right in front of Gabriel, I tossed it into the trash. After that, I turned and walked away. Chapter 12. After some time had passed, I vaguely heard news about Gabriel. They said that after our meeting that day, he went home and locked himself in his room, refusing to come out no matter how much they called him. It wasn't until the Mo family realized something was wrong, When they broke down the door, they found Gabriel stuffing dozens of silver needles into his mouth. His throat had been punctured. Blood was flowing everywhere. And by the time they found him, he was barely alive. He was rushed to the hospital, and when he briefly regained consciousness, he asked to see me one last time, but I had already instructed my assistant, so I never knew he wanted to see me. As for what happened after that, I'm not really sure. What I do know is that the MO family went bankrupt. They owed a lot of money, had to sell their house, and were constantly hiding from creditors. Gabriel not only damaged his vocal cords but also had several silver needles that injured critical areas. In short, even if he survived, every day would be filled with pain. Mrs. Mo still wanted to find a wife for her son. Originally, with his looks, even after everything that had happened, there were still girls willing to give it a try, but her demands were too high. What was once seen as my obedience had now become an insurmountable standard. She kept picking and choosing, but in the end, couldn't find anyone she was satisfied with. When she finally found someone she liked, the girl, knowing she would have to deal with such a mother-in-law, weighed the pros and cons and ultimately decided to reject the offer. So in the end, there was no daughter-in-law to be found. As for Skylark, her family had always favored boys over girls, and the backlash from the public damaged the family business severely. The Sue family directly kicked her out. The school, under pressure, also advised her to leave, with nowhere else to go. Skylark turned to Gabriel, who had become half a shell of a man, almost insane. While she slept, he stabbed her in the throat with a needle, leaving blood everywhere. He kept repeating the phrase, "The one who betrays true love must swallow 1,000 needles." I'm not sure what happened after that, but I imagine it was a rather bloody story. As for me, I successfully completed my studies, smoothly inherited the company, and successfully took away all the power from that man's hands. He called me cold-hearted and said I deserved to be abandoned by men. I laughed at him for raising someone else's child, thinking he had found true love in his old age. In the end, I made him so angry that he coughed up blood and ended up in the hospital. As for his wife and son, they took the money and ran, saying goodbye to him for good. Chapter 13. Another year passed, and it was time for the ancestral festival. I went to visit my mother's grave. In the photo, my mother still looked as gentle as ever. I told her that I had avenged her and myself. I'm doing well now. It's just that, sometimes, I feel a little lonely and miss her.